Welcome back to Vibius PHP framework screencast. In this episode I'll be talking more about what are views, how to use them, and how to work with them properly in Vibius PHP framework. First of all, we have our documentation open about views and templating, and it says that views are HTML templates for our application which are stored in application/views, and those views are operated using the view class. So to start off, to create a view, we have to create a file in our views folder with PHP extension. So let's do this example. Open Vibius application folder, open your views folder, create a new file, foo.php, and we can do an example of hello world. Hello world, type it in, save that. Back to our documentation. It says if we want to display our view, we need an instance of the view class, which is done here. So we can head back to our root file, create a new root, which will be for this case test, and we're going to do a function which will use our instance of the view class. Okay, now we can go back to our documentation. To operate views using view variable, which holds the instance of the view class, we have to use the load method, and then we have to use the display method. That simply means we have to use our view variable, which is here, and instance is here, like following: view load, and we will load our view, which is foo.php, and then we have to display it using the display method. What basically happens now is that Vibius view class loads the foo PHP file and displays it when we go to the root test. Let's test it out in our browser. Our Vibius installation in screencast folder. Let's go to root tests. There we go, hello world, from our foo.php file. Now we can continue to our documentation, which says that most of the time we will need to display some dynamic data in our view class. Oh, in our view, not in a view class. And to display some data in our view, we have to use this method, variables, vars as short. And this method accepts an array as a parameter. To test it out, we have to create an array. For example, we can use data, ID, and we also have to assign some value to this data variable. For example, 4 or 5. And to display this data array in our view, we have to load it using vars method. Data. Let's check it in our browser. We get just hello world, because in our view we have to display the ID variable, which goes like this: PHP echo ID. There we go. We got 5 in our browser, which is our ID from our view and from here. Instead of using the data, we could have done this. We could basically create an array inside the vars method, and we could create an ID here, which will hold the value of 5 or 4. There we go, 4. Vibius has its own templating system, and to use this templating system we have to change the extension of our view. So let's go and rename our view to foo.tpl.php. TPL stands for template. With our templating system we can check that in our documentation. Vibius provides small but powerful templating system, blah blah blah. We have to save our view with tpl.php extension, blah blah blah. And if we want to display variable, we don't have to use the starting PHP and echo and so on, but we can use these small curly brackets. Let's test it out. We have foo.tpl.php. We are passing our variable ID here, and we can basically replace the PHP echo ID for ID. Let's check it in our browser. There we go, another ID. Remove this one, and we have 4. Another great feature of Vibius templating system is setting global variables. To test global variables, we could create a new view, which can go bar.tpl.php, and that can be paragraph, and it will echo test variable. And to define test variable, we can use our view instance to set a globally available variable inside our views. To do so, we have to use a global var method of the view class. First off, we need to set a name for our variable, which will be test, and then we have to set a value, which will be test variable. Now we have to load our test view, which is here, the bar view. To do so, go view, load bar display. As you should have noticed, we are not using the vars method because we have already set our variable here globally. So that means that variable test will be available also in the foo view and in the bar view. So this variable will get displayed. Let's test it out. Seems like we made a mistake. We are missing an L in our method name. Here we go with the simple fix. Add an L here. Hit refresh, and there we go. test variable. Test variable is here as a test, and we are setting our test variable here on the line 7. And we don't have to pass it to the view using the vars method. We could also display the test variable inside the foo view, like following. Test, refresh, foo view, bar view. To continue, we can head back to our docs and we can check the add rule method. What add rule basically does, it specifies our own parsing rule, and it enables us to use simple key and value rules to our views to return some specific data content. Good example can be a small API to load our views from our views. To create the specific parsing rule for our views, we have to use the view instance and the method add rule, and the first parameter has to be our key, and our key will be view, and the method will bring back the function which will use the key, which will be here as a p variable. What this method basically does, it takes a parsing rule from our view and it returns this key to our method here as a p variable. To test this out, we can do a return p, and what this method will be basically doing, when it finds a view underscore key, it will echo the key. To test it out, we can check our view and we can see clearly a key here. To create a small view loading API, we could rename this to a view name from our folders, which is, for example, test. We can do the I am loaded load it using custom parsing rule, and we have to edit our rule to use the view class, because we will be displaying views using this rule. And what we should do is view, we should display the view now, and the name of the view will be the p variable from our key, which is here, and we will use the view test, so change the key to test and edit our rule to do view load, and to load the parameter passed by the rule p display, and we can't forget the return statement. Our rule is ready now. We have test to be displayed here, which is here, and we can test it in our browser by refreshing. As we can see, I'm loaded using custom parsing rule. Now we know how to use views and how to use templating, and we can move on to using URL helper. To use URL helper, we could check our documentation, dynamic URLs, which says that URL class is used to generate dynamic links according to our current domain. It can be used like this. First of all, we need to create a new instance of the URL class, which is from core of Vibius PHP framework. Then we have to use to method to generate our new link. To test it out, we can create first our instance of the URL class, new core URL, and then we can assign a new global variable to our views, view global variable URL or base URL, and it will hold the value of the URL to and the home page. When we use the to method of the URL class, it will generate the link according to our local domain. To check it out, we can use our bar view from the test root, and we can echo our base URL variable. Base URL. Hit refresh in our browser, and we can see a localhost screencast and a no root here, because we have passed an empty argument to our to method. For example, if we want to generate a link to assets, we could use an assets parameter here, which will generate the link to assets, as we can see here. That's pretty much everything you need to know about the URL helper, the view class, and its functions. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode of the screencast.